Hi everyone! In today's video we are going to talk about limiting beliefs, what they are and how I work to get rid of my limiting beliefs. What are limiting beliefs? Limiting beliefs are stories or beliefs that we have picked up throughout our life and that hinder us in some way, that affect us negatively in some way. They can affect the way we make decisions. They can affect the way we feel about ourselves or about the world. They can stop us from going after what we want and stop us from living the lives that we want to live. For the purpose of this video, we are going to focus on 3 different types of limiting beliefs. The first type are limiting beliefs that you have about yourself. For example, I am not worthy of other people's attention. I am too thin. I am not smart enough. The second type of limiting beliefs are beliefs that you have that are connected to rules. And not just any type of rules, but rules that you feel that you need to follow in order to be accepted, to fit in, to be loved, etc. For example, I'm not allowed to fail, or I'm not allowed to succeed, or I'm not allowed to assert myself or be disagreeable in any way. The third type of limiting beliefs are beliefs that you have about the world. For example, women are not to be trusted, or there are no good available men out there, or anger is dangerous. How do these beliefs form? They can form at any time in our life, but there is one particular time when we are extra sensitive, and this is when we are children. This is because as young children, we have not developed our critical thinking yet. And this means that if we are told things or if things happen, we are not able to critically analyze these situations or these things that we are being told. Let's say that there is a child that has an overly critical parent. So no matter what the child is doing, the parent is never satisfied and is always giving critique in a negative way. Let's say that an adult person is viewing these interactions between this child and this parent. This adult will quickly see that the parent is being overly critical and that the child actually is not doing anything wrong really. They are performing like any other child would, but the parent is just not satisfied. So a grown-up can see quickly that this is not the fault of the child. This is an overly critical parent and it has nothing to do with what the kid is actually doing. But the child does not see this. They don't have enough life experience and they have not developed their critical thinking, so they will just start to believe what their parent is telling them. That nothing that they do is ever good enough, that they are not capable, that they are not good at doing things. That's how the child will interpret these messages that they get from the parent, and that's how beliefs can form. So I hope that this example illustrates how easy it is to form very false beliefs that are not true at all, and how deeply they can go into your system if you receive them at a young age. And it doesn't even have to be at a young age. If you are being told as a grown-up again and again a certain thing, you will start to believe that too. So that's why it's so important to become mindful of these beliefs. These limiting beliefs that we have, they kind of run our lives. Maybe you have noticed this too in your life, that the really deep beliefs that you have, they kind of become true for you. If you believe something deeply within you with all of your being, this will become your reality. And that's why we have to break these limiting beliefs and change them for better beliefs. Let's say you have a belief that you are not beautiful enough. Then you will constantly get feedback from the outer world that you are not beautiful enough. And it will have very little to do with your actual appearance, because I'm sure you have all met these gorgeously beautiful women and men out there who still think that they are unattractive and they don't like the way they look. then they will still get that feedback from reality, even if it's just from them always comparing themselves to people that are even more beautiful than they are, and they feel ugly in that sense. So even if the belief has nothing to do with reality, if you believe it deeply enough, you are going to live that experience. And how you break out from that is by changing this inner belief. I'm sure you have met people too that feel so beautiful on the inside, and they live that experience. They live the experience of feeling beautiful, and they have that reflection coming back to them. And that's what I really want to highlight here, that you have the power to change your beliefs. And when you change your beliefs, your reality changes as well. Let's get into how you would change these beliefs. The way I like to see it is that these beliefs are kind of tangled up inside of us. They are in our mind, they are in our emotions, they are in our subconscious, they are just tangled up everywhere. And if we want to get rid of them, we kind of have to pull them out, like you would pull out a weed. You have to get up all the roots, get up everything to be able to throw it away and get rid of it completely. That means that you would have to get rid of this belief on a mental level, on an emotional level, and on a subconscious level. Let's start with the mental level. First of all, step number 1 is just to become aware of the belief. Because many times these beliefs, they are kind of running in the background and they're running our lives, but we are not even aware of them. We have gotten so used to them that we don't even notice that they are there. So the first step is to become aware of the limiting belief. And you can just sit down and make a list. Write down, what are your limiting beliefs? What are the limiting beliefs that you have about yourself? What are the limiting beliefs that you have about rules that you need to follow? And what are your limiting beliefs about the world? Then pick out the ones that are stopping you and hindering you the most and start to work with those. If you have a difficult time finding limiting beliefs, what you can do is just look into your life and see how you're living your life right now. Is there an area of your life where you're struggling? Or is there an area of your life that you would like to be in a different way than what it is right now? For example, your love life or your career or your friendships. And then start to think, what do I believe about friendships? What do I believe about myself in relation to friendships? And then you can also start to see what your limiting beliefs are. So that's step number 1, become aware of the limiting belief. The second step would be to say the belief out loud. This can sometimes help you to hear how crazy some of these beliefs really sound. So just say it out loud. Say, I'm not allowed to fail. You can almost hear it, that it sounds crazy even when you say it like that. The next step after that would be to see, where does this belief come from? Does it come from when I was a child? Does it come from my parents or from other people around me when I was growing up? Does it come from society? Did I pick it up from work? And just see, where does it come from? The next step is to start to dialogue with yourself about this belief and why it is not true. It's almost like you are in court and you want to build a case and break down why this belief is untrue by gathering evidence to support the opposite. If we would take the previous example with the child who grew up with an overly critical parent, and that child has grown up to now believe that nothing that they do is good enough, that they are not capable. They would need to start to analyze what actually happened when they were kids, and to start to understand that I was raised by a critical parent. Children that are raised by critical parents who constantly receive negative feedback, they are going to have the same issues that I have right now. They're going to grow up and go through their life with a feeling that they are not capable, that whatever they are trying to do is not good enough. If there are more people out there who grew up with similar parents that I did, and we are all experiencing the same problems, then maybe it isn't something wrong with us and the way we are doing things. We have just been brought up by parents that were overly critical. it is their issues, it's not my issue. They would also maybe need to think about, okay, I have received this message again and again that what I'm doing is not good enough. So of course that is now reflected out into my reality that nothing I'm doing is good enough. But if I can change that belief, I can also change my reality. They would have to keep going like this, keep dialoguing with themselves, keep arguing with themselves until on a mental level they no longer believe that they are incapable. And if this is your experience, you can take it as far as you like. You can gather more information. You can really educate yourself about what happens to children that are raised by critical parents. And you can also start to gather information on how to break free, how to start to build your confidence again. What steps do I need to take to start to believe in my abilities again? But it starts with at least not believing in that story anymore. That is step number one. And then you will have to change that to a different story. What do I want to believe instead? And work towards gathering evidence that supports that story. For example, if they feel that whatever they're doing, they're failing at it, and maybe they will need to work with themselves and really tell themselves that I am allowed to fail. You have to be able to fail many, many times before you get good at something. And when I was little, I was not even allowed to fail. I had to succeed immediately, even though that was impossible. But now I will give myself the chance to fail before I become successful. And that's how I will build my skills, and that's how I can start to trust my abilities to be capable and my abilities to do things well. So this is just an example, but that's how I would go about it. Just really breaking the story down until I don't believe it anymore on a mental level. The next level is the emotional level. So here you would have to release any emotions that are tangled up together with this belief. For example, if you are trying to do something and you are starting to fail and you are starting to feel these emotions that you felt when you were a kid and your parent told you that you were not good enough at something, now you really have to let those feelings and emotions come out of you and be released, because that's how you're kind of pulling this weed out, so that the story, the belief that you're telling yourself, it will not have any emotional charge anymore, because you are releasing all the emotions and letting them get out of your system. That's why it's so important to work with the emotional level as well. If we take the same example with a person who grew up with a critical parent, that person would need to start to go back and relive the situations from their past when their parent was being critical to them, and feel the emotions connected to those situations and release those emotions out. And just feel them again and again and again while thinking about these situations. And then they will notice that time after time after time, the emotions will become less and less the more they are released out. So let's say that they are thinking back to a situation when their parent was yelling at them and criticizing them for something, and they're feeling all the sadness, they're feeling all the shame and all the unworthiness, and they're feeling frustration and just hopelessness. Now they will sit with those emotions and let all of them come out, and they will do that again and again and again for every situation in their past where they have felt this way. The belief is not tangled up in their emotions anymore, so they can start to view the belief from a more neutral place, and they are not so emotionally invested in that story anymore. They have kind of broken free. So here is the story, here was the emotions that were stuck on that story. Now they have freed those emotions up, and it's kind of a separation. The story is now separating from those emotions, and it's a further way to release that story or belief and get rid of it. The belief or the story will start to lose its grip on you when you're able to release some of those heavy emotions that are connected to that belief. Time by time, after you have released all the emotions, you will come to a place where you're neutral. And it's so much easier for you to work on breaking this belief if you are feeling neutral towards it, if there are no longer any more tangled up heavy emotions connected to this belief. So you have broken it down on a mental level. You don't believe it mentally anymore. You have released the emotions from it. And now the last part would be to release it on a subconscious level. Because as many of us know, we are really run by our subconscious beliefs. There's so much going on underneath the surface that's running the show that it's so important to get this part of us on board if we want to make real changes. Let's say you want something. Let's say, for example, that you want to get into a relationship. And you really do want it, but on a subconscious level, you feel that you don't deserve it, or you are afraid of it on a subconscious level. No matter how much you want a relationship on a conscious level, if your subconscious is not on board, then you will have a very difficult time getting into a relationship. Let's say, for example, that your subconscious is like an elephant going in this direction, steady in this direction. And then you, with your thoughts and your conscious wants, are wanting something in this direction. You don't have the power to move this elephant in another direction with just your mind. You will have to find another way to make the subconscious go to where you want it to go. Unless you can get your subconscious on board, it will be difficult to change at least these very deep-seated limiting beliefs. One way that I found that's very effective for working with the subconscious mind, and that is also very simple, is to use hypnotherapy. If hypnotherapy just feels wrong to you, then try to find other ways to work with your subconscious that feels more like a good fit to you. This is just something that I tried and it worked well for me, but I think you have to find your thing for it to work for you. And if it doesn't feel right to you, then don't do it. So my recommendation is to never ever do things that don't feel right to you. And the way that hypnotherapy works is that it bypasses your critical thinking, much like when you were a child and you had not developed your critical thinking yet, and whatever someone told you, you kind of just believed it. Well, it's the same thing with hypnotherapy, but now we can use it to our advantage. And what happens then is that you come into this relaxed state where your critical thinking is kind of shut off. And any suggestions that come from the hypnotherapy can easily go into your subconscious, and you can kind of reprogram yourself. And the way I've done it is that I've just used apps. There's so many apps out there right now, and you just need to find an app that feels right for you. The only thing I would recommend is, because you're working on reprogramming your subconscious mind, make sure that you really see that it's a good quality hypnotherapy session that you are downloading and that you're working with. Listen to it when you're awake so you hear what they're saying, and also look for reviews and make sure that it's a very serious person that's doing the hypnotherapy. And the way that I would do it, so I would find a hypnotherapy session that helps me with exactly what I need help with. Let's use the same example. This person who thinks that they are not capable, that everything that they are doing is not good enough. If I were this person, I would find a hypnotherapy session that counters that. A hypnotherapy session that talks about how to believe in yourself, how to overcome an inner critic, how to start to trust your abilities to do things. And then I would listen to that for at least 30 days or longer if I feel that I need to. So how do you know you are done? How do you know you're finished with a belief? How do you know you have gotten rid of it? Well, you're going to see your outer reality change. You're going to see changes in your life. Because if you believe something on a deep level, that is going to show up in your life. When you stop believing that, that will no longer show up in your life and you will start to see other things. If you have been very successful, for example, at reprogramming yourself, and you have been able to go from believing that you are incapable, you are not able to do things well at all, everything that you do is not good enough. If that was where you started and you have successfully broken this belief down on the mental level, on the emotional level, and you have managed to work with your subconscious mind so that now you believe the exact opposite of that. You believe now that you are capable, that you are very good at doing things, then you will start to see a reflection back of that. And this is your biggest guide. This is how you can see if you have actually succeeded in getting rid of a belief or not. And where are you with this belief? Your life will show you in exact proportion how far you've come on breaking this belief. Let's say you started over here in complete disbelief of your abilities. And maybe you have come to here and you're feeling quite satisfied. Then you can stop there if you want to, but you don't have to stop. You can keep going and going and going. It's just up to you when you feel that you have reached a level that you are satisfied with in your life. Look out into your life and see the areas in your life that you're struggling with. Look what limiting beliefs are behind those struggling areas and use these tips in this video to break these beliefs apart. And just keep going for as long as you want to go. You can take it as far as you want to take it. And keep looking at your outer circumstances, because your outer circumstances is always giving you a reflection back of what you believe about yourself or what you believe about the world. So to sum it up, by using the example of the person who grew up with a critical parent, first of all, they would start on the mental level by becoming aware of the belief, by saying the belief out loud that they feel that they are not capable, they are not good at accomplishing things. Then they would ask themselves, where does this story or belief come from? And they would understand that it comes from their overly critical parent. After that, they would start to dialogue with themselves and break this story or belief apart until they no longer believe it on a mental level. After that, they would go to the emotional level and they would start to release all emotions connected to this belief and thinking back to all the situations where this belief raised difficult emotions inside of them, and they would release all of that they would release until they could look at this belief and look at all the situations where this belief has shown up and it will be neutral for them. Then they would go to the subconscious level and find a way to work with the subconscious level that feels comfortable for them. In this instance, I use the example of hypnotherapy. So then they would find a hypnotherapy session that counters that negative belief. If they had a belief that they are not capable, that they are not able to do things well, then they could find a hypnotherapy session that starts to build up their belief about their capabilities to achieve things. And then after they have done all of this and they feel that they did it as well as they could, then they will start to look out into their outer reality and see, is the reflection changing? Am I getting a different feedback now than I got before? Because this is my proof that the belief has changed. And then it's up to me to decide how much further I want to take it. This is the way that I work with limiting beliefs. And sometimes you will notice that some limiting beliefs are not so deeply seated. They may just be a mental belief that you have in your mind that you're able to break quite easily by just using the first step, the mental step. And other beliefs will be more deeply seated, so they require more work. And some beliefs you find that they are very difficult to get rid of. It's not always a quick fix. Some beliefs are more difficult to work with. Just remember that the more work you put into yourself, and if you're really willing to go deep and really do the work, the better results you will get, and the more your life will transform as a result of that work. This is all that I have for now. I really hope that this video helps you somehow, and I wish you the best of luck on your healing journey, and I hope to see you soon again. Bye.